Hello, friends. You're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. I never thought my life would circle back to that old highway in Nevada. But trauma has a way of leaving breadcrumbs, and sometimes you follow them even when you don't want to. My name is Marissa Hale, and before everything happened, I worked nights along Highway 95, right outside a dusty town called Boulder Flats, a place where tourists never stopped, cops rarely patrolled, and the desert swallowed screams before they could travel far. I wasn't proud of the work, but I wasn't ashamed either. Life forces you into corners, and survival forces you to stay there. It was late October, wind slicing through the desert, neon motel signs flickering like dying fireflies, when I first noticed the black SUV. It always parked across from the Silver Sage Motel, engine off, windows dark, never moving even when I moved. I chalked it up to paranoia, but paranoia doesn't leave footprints. And that night, it did. I had just finished a rough shift and stepped into my room at the Silver Sage, room 12, the one with peeling wallpaper and a motel Bible older than the building itself. I locked the door, threw my bag on the dresser, and checked the mirror. I looked tired, sunken eyes, smudged eyeliner, hair sticking to my lips. I sighed and reached for my face wipes. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't look in the mirror. I froze. Every part of me went cold. I stared at the message, then at the mirror. Just a cheap motel thing screwed to the wall. Nothing was there, but the phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She sees you. I didn't breathe, didn't swallow, didn't blink. I stepped back from the mirror and grabbed my pepper spray. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. I checked the peephole. No one outside. When I looked back at the mirror, someone else was in it, just a breath behind my reflection. A woman, pale face, wet hair, eyes black like oil. But when I spun around, no one was there. My heart hammered so loudly I thought it would tear through my ribs. I backed into the corner of the room, dialing the motel office. Front desk, Silver Sage. Hi, did someone come into my room earlier? Maintenance? Housekeeping? No, ma'am. Our staff left hours ago. Did anyone ask for room 12? A pause, then. Actually, someone did. A woman, but she said she was your sister. My chest tightened. I don't have a sister. Well, she left a key at the desk. She said you'd locked yourself out. A metallic clink echoed behind me. The spare key in my door rattled, like someone had just tried unlocking it. Sir, call the police, right now. Before the man could answer, the call dropped. Static flooded my speaker. My phone vibrated again. Unknown number. Don't call for help. She hates that. A chill crawled up my spine. Then, 3 sharp knocks on the door. Not frantic, not panicked. Slow, heavy, measured. I tiptoed to the peephole, trembling. On the other side of the door was a woman. Head bowed, long wet hair covering her face. Clothes dripping like she'd climbed out of a river. I whispered, "Who are you?" She lifted her head, and the peephole went pitch black. Something covered it, something breathing. The lights flickered. The air in the room turned icy, like the AC had been replaced by winter. I stumbled back, grabbing my bag and heading straight for the bathroom. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and collapsed against the tub. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The mirror. Don't let her out. I swallowed hard. The bathroom had a mirror. I didn't want to look at it, but the more I avoided it, the more it felt like someone was staring at my back. I slowly lifted my eyes. The mirror fogged over by itself, even though the room was cold as ice. A handprint appeared on the glass. Not mine. Too thin. Too long. Too sharp. Then a face pressed against the inside of the mirror, like the glass was a window and she was standing behind it. The same woman. Wet, pale, unblinking. Her lips didn't move, but her voice whispered right behind my ear. Let me in. I screamed and stumbled out of the bathroom, slamming the door behind me. But the mirror in the main room was worse. My reflection was gone. She was standing in its place. I ran. I didn't think, didn't pack, didn't breathe. I yanked the motel door open and sprinted into the cold night air. The black SUV I'd seen for nights was still parked there. This time, the driver's window was rolled down. A man leaned out, mid-50s, salt and pepper beard, sheriff badge glinting on his jacket. "Ma'am, you okay?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed toward my room. He followed my gaze and frowned. "Room 12? Again? Again?" "What do you mean, again?" I gasped. He stepped closer. "You weren't told, were you?" "Told what?" "Room 12 was the last place a missing woman named Leah Granger was seen. A sex worker like you. Disappeared 3 years ago." My blood froze. "She was found drowned," he continued, voice low. "But not in water. Her lungs were filled with sand." Before I could respond, the motel lights shut off all at once. Total darkness swallowed the building. And then, screaming. My voice? No. It was coming from my room. The sheriff drew his gun. "Stay behind me." But as he took a step forward, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Don't trust him." Before I could process that, another message arrived. Unknown number. He lied. He killed her. I stared at the sheriff's back as he approached room 12. Was this real? Was someone messing with me? My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Look at his hands." I did. His fingers were stained. Dark. Not dirt, not grease. Wet sand. My heartbeat thudded against my skull. "Sheriff," I whispered shakily, "why is there sand on your hands?" He froze, slowly turned. His eyes were hollow, emotionless. "Because she grabbed me," he said softly, "when I held her under." My stomach lurched. "She wouldn't stop screaming," he said, voice cracking. "So I buried her where no one could hear." The wind howled. The motel sign flickered violently. He stepped toward me. "You should have never checked into room 12. He lunged. I sprinted toward the highway, gravel slicing my feet, lungs burning. The sheriff's footsteps thundered behind me. I swerved toward a row of abandoned gas pumps. He followed, fast, relentless, breath ragged. I hid behind a rusted ice machine, clutching my pepper spray like it was holy. He stalked between the pumps, muttering, "She won't let me rest. She won't let me forget. You weren't supposed to see her." His shadow loomed closer. I held my breath. Then, from the motel, a crash. A mirror shattered. The sheriff spun. "No, not again." Something wet dragged across the pavement. He aimed his gun toward the sound. "Leah, don't you come near me." But the figure that stepped into the parking lot wasn't Leah. It wore my clothes, my face, my hair, but not my eyes. They were black, empty, and she smiled at him. The sheriff backed up fast. "No, stay back. Stay away from me." The thing wearing my face tilted its head. Its joints cracked unnaturally, its movements jerky and unnatural. Then it whispered in a voice that was both mine and not mine. "You buried the wrong girl." The sheriff fired. 3 shots. Each bullet passed straight through her. She didn't flinch. She stepped forward, touched his chest with one pale hand. And the sheriff dropped to his knees, screaming as sand poured out of his mouth. He clawed at his throat, eyes bulging, drowning in dry earth. Within seconds, he collapsed. Silent, still, dead. The creature turned to me. My legs trembled so violently I couldn't run. She walked toward me slowly, her face softening, with sadness, not malice. When she stood right in front of me, she whispered, "Thank you for seeing me." Then she dissolved, like smoke in moonlight. The police came hours later. Not the corrupt ones, the real ones. They found the sheriff's body, found evidence connecting him to other disappearances, found Leah's remains exactly where she'd guided them through me. They questioned me for hours, but they never found the black-eyed version of me, or any signs of her. Weeks later, I left Boulder Flats for good. But sometimes when I pass a motel mirror, my reflection lags behind by a second, and at night I still get messages from that same unknown number. "Thank you." I don't block it, because I know she's not trying to hurt me. She just wants to be remembered. And mirrors? Mirrors never forget. Story 2. I never thought the quiet nights on Harbor Street would follow me for the rest of my life. I never thought one client, just one, would change the way I look at an empty hallway, or a dark window, or a motel sign flickering in the distance. My name is Alyssa Grant. I'm 27 years old, born in Jacksonville, Florida, raised mostly by myself, and I've been working the streets of Wilmington, North Carolina, long enough to understand danger before it announces itself. But the night I met the woman in room 6, there was no warning, no sound, just a presence I still feel breathing behind me when I close my eyes. It happened at the Sandridge Motor Inn, a peeling, forgotten motel sitting right off Highway 17. If you've ever driven past it, you wouldn't remember. Just a broken sign with half the bulbs dead, a vending machine that never works, and a front desk clerk who always looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. The Sandridge was cheap, and cheap places attract men who don't want to be seen. But that night wasn't about a man. The air smelled like rain. The neon sign flickered against puddles on the pavement as I stood under the awning, scrolling my phone, waiting for my next client to confirm the room. The messages came suddenly, 5 in a row, from an unknown number. Room 6. Come alone? Cash is on the table. Nothing else. No name. No details. Most people think sex work is reckless, that we walk blindly into rooms without thinking, but we think more than anyone. Every decision feels like it could be your last. But the motel manager had cameras, the parking lot wasn't empty, and I needed the money. Rent was late. My car payment was late. Everything was late, so I walked to room 6. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, calling softly. It's Alyssa. You texted me? Still nothing. But when my hand touched the knob, it turned by itself slowly, like someone was opening it from inside. The door creaked open. The room was almost completely dark except for the dim yellow lamp on the nightstand. Its shade was tilted like someone had bumped it earlier. The air felt cold. Not AC cold, grave cold. I stepped inside and the door closed behind me without me touching it. Hello? I whispered. That was when I noticed the woman sitting on the edge of the bed. Her long black hair hung over her face. Her hands were folded in her lap like she'd been waiting for hours. Something about her posture was wrong. Too still, too straight, like she wasn't breathing. She wore a pale blue dress that looked old, dated, like something from the early 2000s. Are you the one who booked me? I asked. No answer. I reached for the light switch. No lights. Her voice was low, raspy, and came out so suddenly that my fingers froze midair. Okay, I swallowed. Do you want to talk about what you're looking for? Sit, she whispered. I hesitated. Everything in me screamed to leave, but desperation pushes you past your instincts. It blinds you just enough. So I sat in the chair across from her. That's when she finally lifted her head, and I realized something was wrong with her eyes. They weren't focused on me. They weren't focused on anything. They were wide, glassy, reflecting the lamp like mirrors. Dead eyes, but somehow still watching me. Are you okay? I asked softly. She didn't blink, didn't move. Her hand lifted shakily, pointing to the nightstand. There was a stack of cash folded neatly beside the lamp. Take it, she said. I reached slowly, my fingers brushing the money. Then she said something that froze every muscle in my body. Don't leave me alone. I sat back down. Are you in trouble? I asked. She nodded slowly. Then she whispered, He comes back at night. Who? He owned me, she said. Just like he owns this room. Her voice trembled now. No matter how many times I leave, I wake up here again. I frowned. You mean he trafficked you? Her lips twitched. Something like that. The lamp flickered. The air turned colder. She lowered her head again, hair hiding her face. Don't leave me alone, she repeated. He doesn't like when someone leaves. My throat tightened. Do you need me to call someone? The police? Her body stiffened instantly. No police. Her voice wasn't trembling anymore. It was sharp, final. No one can help. Not anymore. The lamp flickered again. Outside, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Heavy, slow. She grabbed my wrist suddenly, her grip ice cold, and whispered, "He's here." The footsteps stopped outside our door. Then, tap, tap, tap. Knuckles rapped slowly against the wood. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. The woman leaned forward, whispering fast, desperate, "Don't open it. Don't answer. Don't look at the peephole." The knocking grew harder. Tap, tap, tap. "Alyssa!" The voice outside dragged out my name like it was tasting it. "How long will you hide from me?" My blood turned cold. How did he know my name? I hadn't said it. I hadn't called out. I hadn't even texted him. The woman gripped my hand tighter. "Don't move," she breathed. "He wants you to open the door. If you do, he'll take you too." "Who is he?" I whispered. "My last client," she said. She lifted her head slowly, and for the first time I saw the bruises around her throat, the finger-shaped marks, the purple rotting skin like she'd been strangled for days. My breath caught. "Are you—" I could barely say it. "Are you alive?" Her eyes lifted. Glassier. Emptier. "I haven't been alive since 2011, she whispered. The knocking stopped. The hallway fell silent, but she kept gripping my arm, her cold fingers burning into my skin. "I was killed in this room," she said. "He kept me here for days. No one came. No one heard." My stomach twisted. "Then what am I doing here?" I asked. She looked toward the door. "You were called." "By who?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "By him. He always brings someone back. When the room gets lonely." The doorknob started turning, very slowly. Metal creaked. The lock slid. The door opened an inch on its own. I froze. A shadow spilled across the carpet, stretching toward me. Not shaped like a man. Too tall. Too thin. Its arms dragging along the floor like smoke. The woman shoved me hard. "Run!" "But run!" I grabbed my bag and bolted toward the bathroom, slamming the door behind me. The lights flickered violently, buzzing like angry bees. Something hit the outer door. A heavy thud. Then another. Then another. The woman screamed. This horrible, desperate sound that cut through the walls. I pressed myself against the cold tile. The pounding stopped. Her scream stopped. Silence. Then the softest whisper drifted through the bathroom door. "Alyssa, open the door." It was her voice, but wrong. Low, stretched, mocking. I covered my mouth, tears burning my eyes. The handle twisted, slowly. I braced myself. The door swung open. But no one was there. The woman, the shadow, gone. The main door to the room was wide open, the hallway empty. I ran, barefoot, breathless, terrified. Down the stairs across the parking lot, through the rain until I reached the street. I didn't stop running until I reached a 24-hour gas station, collapsing near the entrance while the clerk stared at me like I'd escaped a crime scene. I never went back for my things. Not for the makeup bag, not for the jacket, not even for the cash. 2 days later, the police sealed the Sandridge motor inn. They said room 6 had been abandoned for years. No guests, no bookings, no working locks. But the part that made me stop breathing was this. The officer told me they found traces of blood under the floorboards, belonging to a woman named Rachel Moore, a sex worker, missing since 2011. Her case was never solved, but they did have one clue, a motel employee's testimony. Back then, Rachel had been last seen getting a room key from a tall man with a scar across his jaw. The same employee said the man used to whisper the same phrase whenever he booked a room. "I'll come back at night." It's been 3 weeks. I moved apartments, changed my number, stopped taking clients from unknown sources, but last night at 2:17 a.m., my phone lit up. Unknown number, one message, just one. Room 6, and then a second message. "You left too soon." My phone still sits on the table behind me, screen glowing every few minutes with another notification I refuse to open. Outside, I swear I heard footsteps in my hallway just now. Heavy, slow, deliberate, like someone is walking toward my door. Right now, and someone just whispered from the other side, "Alyssa, don't leave me alone." Story 3. I never imagined my life would end up on the dim sidewalks of Brookview, Nevada, a small desert town off the interstate where truckers stopped for fuel, beer, and women who needed money more than safety. I'm Alyssa Carter, 27 years old, originally from Princeton, Minnesota. I grew up in a house where my mother worked 2 jobs and my father worked 2 fists, one for drinking, one for hitting. I ran away at 17 and bounced around states, doing whatever I had to in order to survive. Eventually, I landed in Brookview, a place that looked normal from the highway, but rotted from the inside once you stepped off exit 12. People think sex workers don't feel fear. They think we choose this. But the truth is, fear is the only thing that keeps us alive. Fear of the wrong car, the wrong smile, the wrong night. And one night became the very definition of wrong. It was a cold autumn night when the wind carried sand across the roads like tiny knives. Most clients came in loud pickup trucks or shiny semis, but around 1:15 a.m., a black 1999 Lincoln Town car rolled slowly toward me, its headlights dim like dying eyes. I'd never seen that car before. The window slid down only halfway. Inside, a man's silhouette sat perfectly still. His voice was calm, too calm. "Are you available?" he asked. Something about him made my stomach twist. His tone was polite, gentle, but lifeless, like he practiced it. People say your instincts are your first guardian angel. Mine screamed at me to walk away, but I needed the money. "Where to?" I asked. "Just a short drive," he said. "I prefer privacy." Privacy. That word is a loaded gun for women like me. Still, I opened the door and sat inside. The interior smelled like old leather and cold air. No personal items, not even a water bottle. Everything was too clean. He pulled away from the curb, driving silently through the deserted town. No music, no small talk. After a minute, I finally asked, "What's your name?" He didn't look at me. He didn't blink. He just whispered, "You can call me Thomas." Something about the way he said it made it sound borrowed. Thomas drove toward the outskirts where abandoned gas stations and broken billboards lined the road. The farther we went, the more the desert swallowed the town behind us. "I don't go past Redwood Road," I said firmly. He didn't respond. "Hey, I said I don't." He turned slowly toward me. His eyes were wrong. They weren't glowing or monstrous, just empty, utterly empty, like the eyes of someone who had forgotten how to be human. "You'll be safe," he whispered. "I chose you." I felt my heart slam inside my chest. "What do you mean you chose me?" I snapped. He smiled, barely. "Because you're the only one who can see her." "See who?" Instead of answering, he pointed ahead. Up the road, standing under a flickering streetlight, was a woman. A woman wearing a dirty red dress, her head tilted unnaturally to one side, her arms hanging too long, too stiff, her hair covering most of her face. She wasn't walking. She wasn't waiting. She was standing, like she'd been placed there. I whispered, "Who is that?" Thomas whispered back, "My last passenger." The town car slowed to a crawl. My breath turned to ice. That woman, she wasn't looking at the car, but something about her posture felt like she was aware of me. Only me. Her head twitched slightly. Then her entire body jerked forward like her bones had cracked. "I don't want to go near her," I said. "Turn around." Thomas looked confused. "She's already with us." My chest tightened. "What are you talking about? She's right there." "No," he whispered, turning his dead eyes toward the rearview mirror. "She's inside." I whipped around so fast my neck snapped. The back seat was empty. Or, that's what I thought. Then I saw it. In the reflection of the window, behind my shoulder, a faint outline of a woman's face, pressed against the glass, as if she were inches away from me. I screamed and grabbed the door handle. Locked. "Let me out," I shouted. Thomas didn't flinch. "She wants to go home," he murmured. "She needs someone alive to take her place." My blood went cold. Someone alive. To take her place. Her place where? The woman's reflection moved closer, her hair sliding like wet seaweed, her lips stretched unnaturally wide. Thomas turned off the road onto a dirt path. The car rumbled over rocks until an old decaying house appeared, half collapsed, windows boarded, roof sagging. Nobody lived out here. Nobody should. The car finally stopped. Before he could say anything, I unlocked the door using the manual switch and bolted out. The cold desert wind slapped my face as I stumbled backward. Thomas stepped out slowly, as if he had all the time in the world. "Alyssa," he said softly, "if you run, she'll follow you forever." "I don't care," I screamed. But then I heard it, a wet, dragging sound, like someone pulling broken feet through sand. The woman in the red dress stepped out of the shadows of the house, not walking, sliding, her head still tilted, her limbs bending wrong, her mouth stretching open like a torn wound. Thomas whispered behind me, "She chooses the ones who can see her, and you saw her first." I ran. The desert at night is a black ocean. Every direction looks like death. I sprinted blindly, my feet sinking into the sand. Behind me, the dragging sound grew louder, faster. I didn't dare look back. Then I heard her, a whisper cutting through the wind. "Alyssa!" No client had ever known my full name. I had never told Thomas. That thing wasn't human. I spotted a rusted old water tower in the distance and ran toward it. I ducked behind the base, trying to quiet my breathing. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, the metal creaked above me. Something was climbing the tower. I looked up. Her face stared down at me from the first ladder rung. Upside down, hair hanging, eyes white and wide. I screamed and ran again. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I ran until my lungs burned. Then headlights cut across the sand. A sheriff's patrol truck. Deputy Mark Jennings, someone who'd warned me many times to leave this life, jumped out. "Alyssa, are you hurt? What happened?" I tried to speak, but all I managed was, "Don't look at her." He grabbed my shoulders. "Look at who?" Behind him, she appeared, her body jerking in the headlights, her mouth opening impossibly wide, her fingers stretching like claws. "Get in the truck," Jennings shouted. I didn't argue. He jumped in the driver's seat, threw the truck into gear, and slammed the gas. But the woman hit the back of the truck so hard it shook like metal thunder. Jennings looked in the mirror. "What the hell is—" "Don't look at her!" I screamed. Too late. He locked eyes with her in the mirror. His pupils dilated. His breathing stopped. His hands froze on the wheel. "Jennings? Mark!" he whispered. "She's beautiful." The truck swerved violently. We flipped. I woke up upside down, blood dripping into my eyes. My ears rang. The desert sky spun above me. Jennings was unconscious beside me. Then I heard footsteps. Not dragging, walking, slow, steady, deliberate. "Thomas." He knelt beside me like a gentle doctor. "She's chosen you," he said softly. "You're the one she wants. All you have to do is give her someone else." I shook my head violently. "No, no, please." "A life for a life," he whispered. "One living soul in exchange for your freedom. Even a stranger will do." He held out his hand. "Choose," he said, "or she'll take you now." Behind him, the woman stood completely still, her head inches from mine, her mouth cracked open like broken porcelain. Her cold breath touched my cheek. And I realized, if I didn't choose someone, I would become the next woman under Exit 12, just like her. I looked at Jennings, injured, unconscious, innocent. My heart broke. But survival is a monster that eats morality. I whispered, "Take him?" Thomas smiled. The woman slid toward Jennings, her limbs snapping into place around him like a cage. He didn't even wake before she dragged him into the darkness. The next morning, I walked back to town like a ghost, covered in dust and blood, shaking, terrified. Thomas's car was gone. The woman was gone. Jennings was gone. Every night since, I hear whispers when I try to sleep. "You're free for now." But sometimes when I stand on the street waiting for customers, I feel something cold behind me, watching, waiting, because I didn't escape. I only delayed my turn. And one day, she'll want another trade. Story 4, I never planned on ending up on Hawthorne Avenue, Portland's strip where neon lights flicker all night, and the cold wind of the Willamette River creeps between the buildings, like a warning no one listens to. My name is Marisol Vega, and for the last 8 months, I've been working the street to survive. I'll say this before anything else. The night it happened, nothing felt different. No strange signs, no gut feeling. Everything felt painfully normal, until it didn't. I grew up in Fresno, California, but I ran away at 17 when my stepfather's drinking turned into hitting, and the hitting turned into things much worse. Portland was far enough and anonymous enough. I worked diners, gas stations, anything. But when rent hit $1,450 and my paychecks didn't cover even half, I slipped into the life I swore I'd never enter. Most nights were simply cold, boring, and humiliating. Men drove by slow, asked the same questions, made the same offers. Some were kind, some were monsters. But none of them were like the man in the gray Chevy Malibu. It was late October, the kind of wet Portland night where the fog looks alive. I was standing near the corner of Hawthorne Avenue and 32nd, adjusting my jacket, when a gray Malibu pulled up. The window rolled down just an inch. "You working?" The voice was low, smooth, a little too calm. "Yeah," I said. "Where are you headed?" He didn't answer. Instead, he unlocked the passenger side door. Click. The inside of the car smelled clean. Too clean. Like disinfectant mixed with something metallic. "You look cold," he murmured. "I'll pay double if you come somewhere quiet." I should have said no. Every instinct whispered it. But survival makes you blind. I got in. He drove without speaking, turning down narrower and darker streets until the city noise faded. We stopped in front of an old 2-story home on Larch Street. No lights, no cars, no signs of life. "You live here?" I asked. He smiled without showing teeth. "For tonight?" That should have been the moment I ran. Inside, the house felt abandoned. Dust on the floor, furniture covered in sheets, a strange coldness like the heat had never been turned on. The air smelled faintly of damp wood and something sweet rotting in the walls. "I just want company," he said. "Nothing else." But his eyes said something different. He led me to a room where all the windows were covered in black cloth. But what caught my eye were the mirrors, 6 of them, placed around the room facing inward like they were trapping something. "Why the mirrors?" I whispered. "To keep her from coming back," he said. My stomach tightened. "To keep who from coming back?" He didn't answer. Instead, he locked the door. That's when I noticed there were deep scratch marks on the wood floor. Not just scratches, drag marks, like someone had clawed their way across the room. "Look," I began. "Whatever this is, I'm not comfortable." The lights flickered, then died. Pitch dark. I reached for my phone, but the man grabbed my wrist with an iron grip. "Don't move," he hissed. A faint sound came from behind me. Not footsteps, not breathing. Something softer, like fabric sliding across the floor. My heart slammed against my ribs. Then, tap. A cold fingertip touched my shoulder. I spun around. No one was there. But in the mirror behind me, a woman stared at me, pale, sunken eyes, mouth torn unnaturally wide. Her hair hung wet around her face as though she had drowned moments ago. I screamed and stumbled backward. The man grabbed my arm again. "She follows anyone I bring here," he whispered. "I thought maybe she'd take you instead of me." "What are you talking about?" His voice shook now. "She doesn't want me anymore. She wants someone new, someone alive." The woman in the mirror lifted her hand and pressed it against the glass. Her nails were long, cracked, and dripping dark water. Then she stepped out of the mirror. The woman moved like her bones were broken, jerky, unnatural. The air grew wet and freezing. I could barely breathe. She lunged. I shoved the man toward her and bolted for the door, slamming my shoulder into it until the lock cracked. I ran down the hallway, but the whispers followed me. Wet, gurgling whispers like someone drowning behind me. The house wasn't a house anymore. It felt like a maze. Rooms stretching longer, shadows twisting. Every mirror I passed showed her getting closer. I burst out the back door into the yard, tripped over muddy ground, and sprinted toward the street barefoot. The gray Malibu sat in the driveway. I didn't think. I ran to it, yanked the door open, and jumped in. The keys were still in the ignition. I slammed the gas. As I sped down Larch Street, shaking violently, headlights washed over a figure standing in the middle of the road. It was him, the man. His face was twisted in terror. "Don't leave me with her!" he screamed. I didn't stop. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, she was behind him, hands on his shoulders, pulling him into the darkness. He didn't even have time to scream. I reached Hawthorne Avenue and parked the car crooked across 2 spaces. My friends ran over, thinking I'd been assaulted by a client, but I couldn't speak. For days, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. Wet, pale, always smiling. Then the real nightmare started. Strange things happened in my tiny apartment. Water pooling in the hallway, mirrors fogging from the inside, scratching under the bed, gurgling whispers from the bathroom drain. I realized the truth too late. She didn't want the man. She wanted me. 2 weeks later, at exactly 2:46 a.m., the same time the Malibu had stopped for me, my bathroom light flickered. The mirror fogged. I heard a whisper behind me. "Your turn." Cold fingers touched my shoulder. I turned slowly. Her face was inches from mine. I didn't scream, because I knew nobody would come. Story 5. I never planned on becoming a sex worker. Nobody grows up dreaming about nights spent under flickering streetlights or trusting strangers behind motel doors. But life in Fremont, California had a way of pushing people toward corners they never thought they'd stand in. I was 25, living with grief I couldn't shake. My mom's cancer bills drowned whatever future I imagined. And when she passed, I was left with a cheap apartment on Hickory Street and debts that could have swallowed me whole. So I did what desperate people do. I survived however I could. For a while, things were predictable. Unsafe, yes. Ugly at times, yes. But predictable. Until the night I met the man from room 12. It was late, maybe 1:30 a.m., and the air outside the Whisper Motel smelled like old cigarettes and rain-soaked asphalt. I'd been there dozens of times. The place wasn't classy, but it was quiet, and the manager didn't ask questions. That night, a black sedan pulled into the far end of the lot. No headlights, no sound, just gliding. A man stepped out, tall, lean, wearing a dark gray coat that looked too clean, too polished for a place like this. He didn't look at me, just nodded once, like he had been expecting me. "You're Lena?" he asked. His voice was calm, too calm. I nodded. Something in my stomach twisted, but money was money. He led me to room 12. The second I crossed the doorway, the temperature dropped like someone had opened a freezer. I wrapped my arms around myself. The room was spotless, too spotless. Fresh sheets, ironed. The TV unplugged. No personal belongings. It looked staged. "Sit," he said, motioning to the bed. But instead of following, he stood with his back to me, facing the wall. For a long moment, neither of us moved. "Sir?" I asked. His shoulders stiffened. Then he whispered something, so faint, so broken, that I barely caught it. "She doesn't stop following." My breath hitched. "Who?" I asked. But he didn't answer. That's when I noticed the mirror, a huge one, bolted to the wall opposite the bed. I'd seen it before, but tonight, it looked different. The edges were fogged, like someone had breathed on it. And in the center, a faint handprint. I hadn't touched it. "Did you?" Before I finished, he turned sharply toward me. "Don't look at that." I froze. His eyes weren't angry. They were terrified. He moved closer, lowering his voice. "She appears in reflections first." My heart pounded. "Who's she?" Instead of answering, he reached into his coat and placed a thick envelope on the nightstand. "For you, for staying. You don't have to do anything else." I hesitated. This wasn't normal. "I'm not staying if you're not telling me what's going on." He swallowed. "I tried to leave her. I tried everything. But once she chooses you..." He trailed off, staring at the mirror. Then the handprint grew darker. It smeared downward, like a finger dragging across the glass. I stumbled back. "Is someone in here?" I whispered. "Yes," he said, "but not alive." A chill swept across the room, prickling my skin. The air felt electric, heavy, like I was standing in the middle of a storm. Then, slowly, a shape formed behind the foggy mirror. A woman. I could see her outline first. Long hair, sunken shoulders, head tilted too far to one side, like her neck had snapped. I blinked hard. No, 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 no. This wasn't real. But she was pressed against the inside of the mirror as if trying to get out. The man stepped back, whispering. She followed me from the motel in Nevada. I stayed in her room. Room 12. My blood froze. This wasn't his room. This was hers. The figure's hand rose again, fingers scraping the glass from the inside. I heard the faintest, high-pitched sound, like nails dragging. Why me? I whispered. He slowly turned toward me. Because you saw her. Right then, the mirror cracked. I bolted for the door, but when I grabbed the handle, the metal burned my palm like it was heated from the inside. It won't open, he said quietly. Not until she finishes. Finishes what? But I didn't need an answer. I could hear her, a soft, wet breathing, right behind me. I didn't turn around. The man moved closer, his voice trembling. She kills the last person who entered the room. My throat tightened. That's me. He nodded. Then suddenly, bang! The mirror exploded outward. Shards flew everywhere. Something cold touched the back of my neck, like fingers brushing my skin. I screamed. The man grabbed my arm, dragging me to the bathroom. She hates light! He flicked on every switch. Vanity bulbs, overhead light, everything. The breathing stopped. For a moment, I slid down the wall, shaking. What does she want? He knelt in front of me. She was a sex worker. She died in this exact room 27 years ago. A client strangled her in front of that mirror. The police never found her body. They say her soul got trapped. My chest tightened. She appears to people like us, he continued. People who live the same life she did. People she thinks she can pull back into her world. I felt sick. Behind him, the bathroom mirror flickered. My reflection smiled. But I wasn't smiling. My reflection's head tilted slowly, the same unnatural angle. No, no, this isn't happening. He grabbed my face, forcing my eyes to him. Don't look at her. Don't give her your attention. She grows stronger when you acknowledge her. But I could feel her breath on my ear. Cold, rotten, hungry. The lights flickered. She was coming again. Open the door, I screamed. The man shook his head. She doesn't let anyone leave. The lights flickered harder. One bulb burst above us. Then I heard a voice, raspy, feminine, crawling into my mind. Stay with me. My body froze. The man panicked. Fight her, Lena. She wants to replace herself. The lights cut out. Pitch black. Something grabbed my ankle. I kicked wildly, but whatever it was wouldn't let go. It was cold, strong, pulling me across the floor. The man lunged to help, and then his body lifted off the ground. Lifted by nothing. He choked, clawing at his throat. His feet dangled a foot above the floor. The sound, God, the sound. His neck snapped like a dry twig. His body dropped beside me. I screamed again, crawling away. But the darkness moved with me, whispering, room for one more. Light. Suddenly, the bathroom light flickered back on. The grip on my ankle vanished. In that moment of shock, adrenaline took over. I sprinted to the main door, grabbed the hot handle without thinking, and this time, it opened. I stumbled into the cold night air, falling onto the gravel. Behind me, the door to room 12 slammed shut so hard the wall seemed to shake. I didn't look back. I just ran. I left the Whisper Motel, left Fremont, left everything. I caught the first bus out of the city and never returned. But last night, something happened. I moved to Bakersfield, far from that motel, far from room 12, far from everything I wanted to forget. I even quit the work. I thought distance would save me. But last night I was brushing my teeth when the bathroom mirror fogged over on its own. One handprint appeared, then another, then a face. Her face, neck still twisted, eyes still cold, smiling at me. As I backed away slowly, heart pounding out of my chest, words formed in the fog, written by an unseen hand. You entered the room. The lights flickered. The breathing began again. She found me. Story 6. I never planned to become a sex worker, but life in Portland, Oregon has a strange way of pushing people toward choices they never imagined, especially when there's rent to pay, no family left, and a past that never stops following you. My name is Alicia Grant, and this is the story I've never told anyone because no one would believe me anyway. But everything I'm about to say happened. Every sound, every breath, every shadow that moved on its own. And it started on a night when I chose the wrong client. I grew up in Bend, Oregon, in a tiny duplex with a mother who worked double shifts at a local diner and a father who left when I was 6. My mom died of liver failure when I was 23, and before I could find my footing, rent, bills, and loneliness swallowed me whole. I moved to Portland, thinking the city would give me a fresh start. It didn't. At first, I worked at a grocery store, then a cafe, then a bar. And when I lost the bar job, I fell into the kind of work people pretend doesn't exist but rely on more than they admit. I told myself I'd do it only until I saved enough to leave Portland. Months passed. Money came and went. Then came him. It was a cold September night when I first saw the black SUV pull up near the curb of Maple Ridge Street, a quiet, tree-lined residential area I usually avoided. Clients out here weren't normal. The window rolled down slowly. Too slowly. I remember the sound of it, like old bones cracking. A man's voice came from the darkness inside. "Are you Alicia?" I froze. I never shared my real name with clients. To anyone out here, I was Lexi. "Who told you that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. The man didn't answer. Instead, he unlocked the passenger door. Click. Something in my chest tightened. I should have walked away. Every instinct told me to turn around. But the way he said my real name, it felt like a hook pulling me forward. I got inside. The man looked about 40, clean-shaven, pale skin, neatly combed hair. He wore a dark gray coat that looked expensive, not flashy, just old-fashioned, like he had stepped out of a black and white photograph. He smiled, but his eyes didn't. His eyes were the coldest blue I've ever seen. "Where are we going?" I asked. He looked straight ahead. "Home." His voice wasn't threatening, just empty, as if he were reading a script he'd memorized long ago. I glanced at the rearview mirror and froze. I could see myself sitting in the passenger seat. But the man sitting next to me had no reflection. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. Still nothing. No head, no face. Just an empty driver's seat in the mirror. My throat closed up. "Stop the car," I whispered. He didn't stop. Instead, his voice dropped to a whisper, colder than the night air. "You see it now." We drove for nearly 20 minutes, away from Portland, away from everything familiar, toward a dense patch of woods near Sauvie Island. I'd never been out here at night. The SUV turned onto a narrow dirt road and stopped before an old 2-story Victorian house. It looked abandoned. Chipped paint, windows covered in grime, porch boards warped and dark from time. The engine turned off. The man opened the door and stepped out. But the way he walked, something was wrong. His body moved too smoothly, like his joints weren't connected like a normal human's. Like he was bending in places a body wasn't meant to bend. A sick, twisting fear rose inside me. "Why did you bring me here?" I shouted, stepping out of the car. He didn't turn around. Instead, he said quietly, "You're not the first." The door creaked open on its own. Inside, the house was freezing. Colder than the outside air, colder than winter. My breath came out in white puffs. The hallway was lined with old frame photographs. When I looked closely, my stomach dropped. The faces of the women in the photos were blurred, as if someone had smeared their features with fingers dipped in ash. As I stepped closer, I noticed that one of the photographs had a date written beneath it. 1986, Lila Henderson. Another, 1999, Rachel Hale. There were dozens, different decades, different faces, all blurred, all women, all around my age. My pulse hammered in my ears. "What is this place?" I whispered. The man finally turned toward me, and in the dim light of the hallway, I saw his face change. Not drastically, not like something out of a movie, just subtly. Features softening, then sharpening, cheekbones shifting, eyes darkening, like he was wearing someone else's face that didn't fit right. "This is where you end," he said. I ran. I bolted for the front door, but it slammed shut right before I reached it. The house groaned, like it was alive. I grabbed the doorknob. It burned me. I screamed and pulled my hand back. Behind me, slow footsteps echoed. Step, step, step. I turned toward the hallway and saw the man standing still, but his shadow on the wall moved on its own, stretching toward me like long, reaching fingers. I stumbled backward until my spine hit a door, a basement door, a door that moved. It expanded and contracted like it was breathing. A whisper came from the cracks. "Help! Please!" A woman's voice. My body shook violently. "Who's there?" I whispered. The whisper came again, weaker this time. "Don't come down. Run!" Before I could react, the man was suddenly inches from my face. I never saw him move. He smiled, stretched, unnatural, too wide. "Go ahead," he whispered. "Open it." His breath was ice on my skin. I didn't want to go down, but the door pushed itself open, darkness spilling out like ink. The stairs creaked under my feet as I descended. The basement smelled like dirt and old metal. My heart pounded so loudly I couldn't hear my own breathing. Halfway down, I froze. There were women standing in the dark. 6, maybe 7. Barefoot, wearing old clothing from different eras. Their hair hung over their faces. They didn't move, didn't look at me, just stood, like lifeless mannequins. Then one of them stepped forward. Her voice was a dry whisper. "He keeps us here." My throat closed. Another stepped forward. "He takes our faces." My body shook. A third one, voice barely human. "Run while you still remember who you are." A sudden, sharp snapping sound came from behind me. I turned. The man stood at the top of the stairs, head tilted in a way no living person could tilt theirs. "Too late," he said. Torches on the basement walls flared to life, all at once, and that's when I saw them. Faces, human faces, dried like old leather, nailed to the wall like trophies. Dozens of them. Mouths open in silent screams, eyes hollow. My stomach heaved. The women behind me all turned their heads sharply toward the man, every movement identical, inhuman, and in unison they whispered, "He lives on what we once were." The man stepped down the stairs slowly, hands clasped behind his back. "You all sell pieces of yourselves," he said softly, "but I take everything." He reached for me, his fingers elongated, stretching like melted wax, reaching for my face. I ducked and sprinted toward the corner of the basement. He moved fast, impossibly fast, appearing almost instantly in front of me. But the women, the dead women, they stepped between us, as if protecting me. Their heads jerked and snapped unnaturally as they whispered together, "Leave! Run! Go!" The house started to shake. Lights flickered. The man roared, a deep animalistic sound that rattled the walls. I climbed the stairs, my legs shaking violently, and grabbed the doorknob again. This time it didn't burn me. I threw the door open and ran into the night. Branches slapped my face. Twigs cut my arms. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. A passing truck driver found me trembling and covered in dirt. He called 911. Police searched the woods. They never found the house. They never found the man. They never found the women. They told me I'd imagined it, that trauma can create hallucinations. But I know what I saw, what I heard. And sometimes at night, when I'm alone, I feel fingers brushing my cheek, checking, making sure I'm still here. Still mine, not his. Story 7. I never thought my life would lead me to the corners of Cedar Street in Portland, Oregon. But when you're running from a past that never stops clawing at your heels, you take whatever road keeps you breathing, even if that road is cracked, dimly lit, and full of shadows that learn your name. My name is Alyssa Grant, 31, born in Savannah, Georgia, raised by a mother who worked 3 jobs and a father who disappeared before I learned how to spell his name. I wasn't supposed to end up here, leaning under a flickering streetlight, listening for footsteps behind me, pretending the cold doesn't hurt. But life rarely works the way people expect. The streets didn't scare me anymore. Not the men, not the deals, not the loneliness. But what happened the night of October 17th, that changed everything. That night made me understand fear in its purest form. Cedar Street was unusually silent. Normally, even past midnight, you would hear a car engine revving, a drunk guy yelling to no one, or the low thumping of bass from the 24-hour bar at the far end. But tonight, it felt like someone had wrapped the whole block in cotton, everything muted, slow, wrong. I adjusted my denim jacket tighter as the temperature dipped. My friend Maria Evans, who worked the opposite corner near the gas station, waved at me with her cigarette. "You good, Alyssa?" she called out, smoke drifting around her face. "Yeah," I replied, though something in my stomach told me to go home. "You hear the talk?" she asked, stepping closer. "What talk?" "Some girl from Burnside went missing last night. Left with a client. Never came back." I froze. Disappearances weren't new in our world, but lately, it was happening more. "Police involved?" I asked. Maria shrugged. "You know how it goes. They barely look at us unless we're dead." I could hear the bitterness in her voice. It was the kind of truth you hate because it's real. We talked for another minute until a car pulled up near her corner. She tapped my arm and whispered, "Be safe." "You too," I said. I didn't know those would be the last words I'd ever say to her. Around 1:15 a.m., a black 1998 Lincoln Town car rolled slowly down Cedar Street, old, polished, shining under the streetlights like it didn't belong there. When it stopped near me, the tinted window rolled down just enough for me to see the man inside. He was wearing a gray suit, old-fashioned, like something from the 1970s. His skin was pale, not sickly pale, but cold pale, like marble, like he hadn't seen sunlight in years. His voice was smooth. "Are you available?" "Yeah," I responded carefully. "Where to?" "My house," he said softly. "Just a few blocks from here." His tone didn't match the danger signs going off in my head. Something about him didn't feel right. Maybe it was the void-like darkness behind him. Maybe the way he didn't blink. "Look," I said, "I don't go to private houses unless—" "I'll pay you triple," he said. Triple. Enough to cover 2 weeks of rent. Against every instinct screaming inside me, I got in. The door closed harder than a normal car door should, like the car swallowed me whole. Inside, it smelled faintly of something sweet. Not cologne, not air freshener. Something older, like wilted flowers. His eyes stayed on the road, hands perfectly still on the wheel. No nails. I didn't notice it immediately, but when he adjusted his grip, I saw it. He had fingers, but no nails. It was like the skin wrapped straight over the tips. I swallowed hard and asked, "What's your name?" He smiled slightly. "Call me Mr. Hale." I forced a laugh. "Old school name." "It's an old school house." Something about the way he said that sent a sharp chill down my spine. We drove past familiar streets, then unfamiliar ones. The further we went, the darker it became. Streetlights thinning until only the car's headlights guided the way. "Is this still in Portland?" I joked nervously. "Yes," he replied. "A forgotten part." His house sat alone on a dead-end road. Tall, narrow Victorian style. Paint peeling at the edges, but somehow looking preserved. Almost like the house refused to die. Every window was dark. No porch light, no movement. "Come," he said. I hesitated. "You got someone inside?" "No," he answered. "No one living." Before I could process what he meant, he started walking toward the house, expecting me to follow. Everything inside me screamed run, but the road behind us was pitch black, and the woods surrounding the house felt alive. So I followed him. The front door creaked open on its own. Inside smelled like dust, old books, and something else. A metallic scent I couldn't place. He walked ahead, silent, steady. That was when I noticed something. Despite how dusty the floor was, he left no footprints. But I did. He led me into a parlor room lit by a single dim lamp. Walls were covered, not with paintings, but photographs. Hundreds, maybe thousands. All women. Women dressed like me. Street corners. Alleys. Motel beds. Gas stations. Girls from Cedar Street, girls from Burnside, girls who never came back. My chest tightened as I scanned the wall, and then I saw her, Maria, a photograph of her smoking under the gas station sign. Taken last night. My knees nearly buckled. I turned to him, voice trembling. "What is this?" "My collection," he said softly. "This is sick," I whispered, moving back. "They are not dead," he said calmly. "Not yet." My blood ran cold. "What did you do to them?" I cried. He tilted his head, studying me like I was another photograph waiting to happen. "I keep them," he whispered. "I keep what the world throws away." I bolted for the hallway. The lights flickered violently. Something slammed the door behind me so hard the wall shook. I sprinted toward the front door, grabbed the knob, locked. I twisted harder, locked. I kicked, screamed, hit it with my fists. Nothing. Then I heard it, a faint murmur, like dozens of voices whispering through the walls, crying, calling out, begging. The house wasn't empty. The house was full. I backed away from the door, shaking. "Alyssa!" His voice came from behind me. I turned slowly. He was standing at the end of the hallway, but something was wrong. His feet weren't touching the floor. His body hovered an inch above it, drifting forward like a puppet on invisible strings. My throat closed up. "Please," I whispered, "let me go." "You came inside," he said softly. "This house keeps what enters." I didn't choose to go into the basement. The house forced me. The floorboards vibrated beneath my feet. A gust of freezing air circled me like invisible hands, pushing me toward a doorway. I tried resisting. Didn't matter. My legs moved anyway. Down the creaking steps, into darkness. A single hanging bulb flickered, revealing what was in front of me. Cages. Not metal cages. Wooden ones. Handmade. Carved with strange symbols. Inside them were women, alive, barely. Eyes wide. Faces pale. Skin sunken. One of them grabbed the bars and whispered, "Don't scream. He feeds on it." Another reached out weakly. "Please, help us." I staggered back, horrified. "Maria! Maria, are you here?" A weak voice came from the far corner. "Alyssa, don't stay." My heart broke. Maria's face was bruised, her lips cracked, her eyes hollow. "He won't let us die," she whispered. "He keeps us alive. Forever." Before I could reach her, footsteps echoed behind me. Slow, deliberate, impossible. Mr. Hale descended the stairs, floating instead of stepping, his face expressionless, his hands unfolding like long, stretching shadows. "She will join you soon," he said. I yanked the hanging bulb, smashing it in my hands. The basement went dark. The women whispered in panic. I could hear him moving, gliding like silk brushing the air. "Alyssa," he whispered, "do not delay what is inevitable." I backed up until my hand brushed something on the wall, a rusted metal rod. Instinct took over. When he lunged toward me, face pale, eyes hollow, teeth too many, I swung the rod blindly. It connected. A sickening crack echoed. He shrieked, not human, not anything natural. His body contorted violently, twisting into something hideous. The cages rattled. The symbols glowed faintly. The air grew hotter. I didn't think, just ran. Ran up the stairs. Ran through the hallway. Ran until I slammed into the front door again, and this time it opened. I spilled onto the porch, gasping, shaking, crying. The house groaned behind me, like it was angry. I sprinted down the road, barefoot, bleeding, not daring to look back. When the police found me at 4:32 a.m., collapsed near a 7-Eleven, they thought I was high or hallucinating. They went to the address I described, but the road I had run from, it didn't exist in their GPS. When they finally found it by following my footprints, the house wasn't there, just an empty patch of land and a dead oak tree. No photographs, no basement, no cages, no Maria. Only my footprints leading into nothing. And a single object found in the dirt, a faded black and white picture of me standing under the Cedar Street streetlight, taken minutes before I got into his car. I quit Cedar Street. I quit everything. But some nights when my phone buzzes at 1:15 a.m., the exact time his car arrived, I feel the same coldness from that house behind me. And sometimes, when I walk past dark alleys, I see an old black Lincoln parked near the shadows, waiting, watching, collecting. Story 8. I never planned to become the kind of woman who works the dark corners of American highways. But life doesn't really ask you what you want. It pushes you, drags you, rips things out of your hands until you stand somewhere you swore you'd never be. My name is Leah Monroe, born in Peoria, Illinois, raised by a mother who loved pills more than people. By 17, I was living in motels, and by 22, I drifted south toward Missouri, eventually ending up near St. Clair County, right off the long, forgotten stretch near Interstate Exit 39. A place truckers whispered about but never stopped unless they had to. Exit 39 had a reputation, not for cops, not for drugs, but for disappearances. 4 women in the last decade, 2 never found. But work is work. And when you're alone, broke and tired, fear becomes just another thing you learn to ignore. That night, though, fear didn't ignore me. It was a cold November evening. The kind of cold where breath hangs in the air like smoke. The truck stop diner behind me, Red Lantern Cafe, buzzed with the same dim neon sign flickering over the empty parking lot. I'd been standing there for almost 2 hours, hugging my jacket close while the highway wind stung my skin. Around 11:40 p.m., a black SUV slowed near the curb. Tinted windows, no plates. I stepped back instinctively. The rear window rolled down halfway. "Leah?" A man's voice asked, calm, warm, like he knew me. My blood froze. "How do you know my name?" I asked. The man didn't answer directly. Instead, in a voice smooth as glass, he said, "You help people. I need your help tonight." I should have walked away. Every instinct screamed at me to run back into the diner, sit under the buzzing fluorescent lights and drink cheap coffee until morning. But there was something hypnotic in his tone, an eerie, soft politeness. "Just get in," he said. "I promise you'll be safe." Promises mean nothing in my line of work, but my rent was due, and he sounded rich. I opened the door. Inside, the air smelled of cedarwood and something faintly metallic. He wore a dark coat, leather gloves, and a silver ring with a symbol I didn't recognize, almost like 2 circles overlapping. His face stayed hidden in the shadows. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Just a short drive," he replied. The SUV moved away from the diner, heading down a service road that led deeper into the woods. No streetlights, no houses, just thick black trees pressing against the road. "I don't go far from the highway," I said firmly. "You're not far," he said. "Just below it." Below, I tried to study him discreetly. His posture was too still, too controlled. People always shifted, adjusted themselves, cracked their knuckles, but he sat unmoving, like a statue. After 10 minutes, the SUV slowed. We reached an old concrete tunnel underpass beneath the highway, a dim structure built decades ago, covered in graffiti and rust stains. The kind of place you'd never stop near unless something forced you to. He parked at the entrance. "We're here," he whispered. My heartbeat thudded painfully. "What is this place?" "Somewhere the lost go," he said softly. "And somewhere they call me back." I reached for the door handle, my instincts bracing to run. But when I looked out the window, every exit was swallowed in darkness. And suddenly he unlocked his door. The man stepped out first. His boots echoed against the concrete of the underpass. I hesitated but followed, praying there were no chains, no weapons, no shallow graves nearby. The air under the bridge was freezing, unnaturally cold. "Why did you bring me here?" I asked. He didn't look at me. Instead, he stared into the darkness of the underpass tunnel. "I need a witness," he whispered. "To what they do." "They." He slowly turned toward me, and this time I finally saw his face. Pale, lifeless, dark veins climbing under his skin like roots. And his eyes weren't right. They looked like wet obsidian stones with no reflection of light. "I'm not one of them," he said quietly, "but they marked me years ago." I stumbled backward. "You're scaring me." He stepped closer. Not threatening, but desperate. You have to stay. If you run, they'll take you too. Before I could respond, a sound echoed through the tunnel. A woman's voice, weak, crying. Help! Please, someone! I froze. It wasn't just a voice. It sounded like she was beneath us. The man knelt and placed his gloved hand on the cold concrete floor of the underpass. They live underneath, he whispered. In the hollow spaces, they feed on the forgotten. What are you talking about? I whispered. He didn't answer verbally. Instead, the ground vibrated, a slow, rhythmic thumping, as if something massive crawled under the concrete slab, dragging itself inch by inch. No, I whispered. There's no way. The man grabbed my wrist. You asked how I knew your name, he said. They told me. How? Because they want you. My breath hitched. Why me? He swallowed. They like women who have been hurt, women who walk alone, women no one will file a missing report for until it's too late. No, I muttered, stepping back. But the concrete below us cracked slightly. Just a hairline fracture, but enough to show that something was pushing upward. Then a pale hand, impossibly thin, slid briefly through the crack before disappearing again. I screamed. Stay still, he said sharply, pulling me closer. They sense movement. He held my arm so tightly I felt his grip tremble. And then the voice came again. Leah, Leah, Leah. It was my name, but the voice was my mother's. My vision blurred. My mother had been dead for years, overdosed in a motel bathtub in Illinois. She couldn't be here. You're hearing what they want you to hear, the man whispered. They shape voices. They mimic memories. They do it so you come closer. A second voice joined. This time, my childhood babysitter. Then an old friend. Then my mother again. Voices layered on voices, echoing inside the hollow space beneath the tunnel. The ground thumped. Concrete dust rained down. They're hungry, he whispered. Why bring me here? I cried. To show you, he said. To warn you, because I don't have much longer. What do you mean? He slowly unbuttoned the top of his shirt. Beneath was a blackened mark burned into his chest, an overlapping circle symbol, the same as the one on his ring. A mark that moved, like something beneath his skin writhed inside it. I'm turning, he whispered, voice trembling. When they take someone, they leave a piece of themselves behind. The mark grows until you're one of them. I stepped back, horrified. How long do you have? He looked down at his trembling hands. Minutes, maybe. Suddenly the ground beneath us cracked loudly. A long fissure opened. A pale skeletal arm shot upward, grabbing his ankle. He screamed, an agonizing, guttural sound, as the unseen creature pulled him downward. No, no, I shouted, trying to pull him away. His glove slipped off in my hand. Run, he shouted. Run, Leah! But the moment I turned, the voices shifted. They no longer sounded like my mother. They sounded like me, my own voice, calling from below. Leah, don't leave me. Please, help me. My legs trembled violently. I couldn't breathe. The man's body was halfway inside the crack, dragged violently by something massive beneath the concrete. His final words were barely audible. Don't look back. Don't become one. His body snapped downward into darkness. The concrete slammed shut. Silence. I ran. I sprinted through the underpass, tears streaming, lungs burning, until I burst into the open road beneath the cold night sky. I didn't stop, not until I reached the Red Lantern Cafe again. But when I turned back one last time, I saw them, dozens of pale silhouettes standing inside the shadows of the underpass, watching me, unmoving, waiting. I quit working that night. I moved states, changed my number. Never told anyone what happened. Sometimes late at night, I hear voices outside my apartment hallway. Voices that sound like people I've lost. Sometimes I wake up with dust on my sheets, concrete dust. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear something massive crawling beneath the street outside my window, dragging itself toward me, inching closer every night. There are things in this world that live below us, Things that feast on women this country forgets. Women no one protects. Women like me. I survived exit 39, but I don't feel saved. I feel hunted. And I know one day I'll hear my own voice whispering from below, Leah, come back.